do everything. So
alrighty. So now going to the last team, last but not least, the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of turnover with their new coach and, the Jalen Hurts era, which they finally named him starter earlier this week, which was a shock. But here we go. In terms of losses, traded away Carson Wentz. Alshon Jeffrey left and actually hasn't been signed. I'm a little bit surprised by that. I forgot about him. That's why I'm surprised. Malik Jackson also left. Wide receiver Deshaun Jackson as well. Marquise Goodwin, who is a depth wide receiver. Jason Peters as well. One of their longtime linemen went to the Bears. Jalen Mills, who is a defensive back. Let's see. And then a few, running back Corey Clement. And I'm trying to see. I think that's about it in terms of losses. In terms of additions, brought in, like our friend Mitch mentioned during the Washington segment, brought in Ryan Kerrigan. Safety Anthony Harris from the Vikings. Cornerback Steven Nelson. Grabbed linebacker Eric Wilson from the Vikings. And then also recently traded for Gardner Minshew at quarterback. And then draft-wise...
Go for upfront low prices on a great select...
Sorry about that. Stupid ad. Round 1, pick 10, Devonta Smith. And then at round 2, also went Alabama again with one of my favorite centers, Landon Dickerson. So re-adding to offensive line. And then third round went with the guy Milton Williams, a defensive tackle out of Louisiana Tech. And then they had a few other picks, but not guys that I had on my radar or John did. But regardless, John, how do you feel about the Eagles and I guess the upcoming Jalen Hurts era?
I think a lot of people, especially like fantasy football people, are a lot higher on the Eagles than I am. I always preface this with any Eagles thing. Maybe I'm biased because I am a Cowboys fan, and if there's one team I hate, it is the Philadelphia Eagles. But I like Jalen Hurts. I don't think that he is an NFL level thrower. I know that he had some pretty decent games last year, but I wonder how he's going to prepare or how he's going to do this year when NFL teams are fully scheming for him as opposed to just it's the Eagles, we're going to win. Like you don't really need to pay that much attention, now in a year where it's okay, it's Jalen Hurts, let's stop him. Can the Eagles hold up? I just have a lot of questions about their entire offense. Maybe except for like tight end, Dallas Goddard and Zach Ertz. Apparently Zach Ertz wants to stay now. So that's sort of figured out. They have really good tight end room, but offensive line, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, they have had some significant injuries recently. And we know how good they both are, but they're getting up there in age. They, like I said, they're coming off injuries. So one has to wonder, how they'll do just for like the Cowboys offensive linemen. And then on the left side, Jason Peters is gone. I can't remember the names of their left guards and their left tackle. Their left tackles, I think
so guard Brandon Brooks, who was out last season, he tore his Achilles like week 1 or right before the season. Then it's Jason Kelsey. They always have like someone else filling in at like right guard. For a while, it was like Isaac Samuel.
Well, Brandon Brooks is their right guard.
Sorry, left guard.
Yeah.
I think they had Jason Peters play left guard last season, and Andre Dillard played tackle. I didn't watch a lot of Eagles games, so I don't remember. So,
regardless, okay. So Jordan Mailata is their left tackle
because that guy commented saying that
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sold on him. I mean, maybe we'll see what happens there, and maybe I'll just be wrong. And then let's see for guard. Which maybe Landon Dickerson swings to guard for his rookie year while Kelsey still plays center. I don't know what the plan is there, but it's Isaac Selmalo. I don't know. I'm not sure if I said that right.
I don't know. He's been there for a couple of years filling in, but not an amazing guard, just solid.
I would do the thing where you play Landon Dickerson at guard, see what happens, because I think he's a really talented player. But at least currently, it looks like the projected offensive line is him as a backup. So yeah, I have questions about those two guys on the left side. And I think if one side of your line is really weak, then there's only so much your line can really do because then you become predictable. You're probably going to run a lot to the right side. But even then with those guys, like I said, there's injury concerns. And so just question marks around the offensive line as a whole, except for Kelsey pretty much. But even he's getting older. So, there could be decline in play. We don't know. At wide receiver, I still have question marks. Jalen Rager didn't have the most amazing year last year. I think he did have injuries though. So we'll see what kind of year he can have this year. Devonta Smith, I think he's had some good preseason games, but sort of like Saquon with like the Giants offensive line, I think he could be limited just based on the skill set of Jalen Hurts. Could be limited if the offensive line play isn't amazing. And I know that people are, like, oh, he doesn't need to gain weight and all that kind of stuff. And I'm on board with that too, but I do think there is sort of a added level of physicality in the NFL that he might have to adjust to. I'm not saying it's going to take a long time, but I do think there will be an adjustment period. And we're seeing that with everybody, right? Every rookie, like sometimes it takes a little bit to get used to it. I mean, even Justin Jefferson, who had an amazing year last year, like he didn't play the first, couple of games. And maybe that was because the coaching staff just felt like he needed to sort of, get into the swing of things of how physical the NFL could be. So yeah, I have question marks on like the entire offense pretty much, except for maybe Miles Sanders. But I think with Nick Sirianni, their new head coach, pretty sure that every offensive scheme that he's ever been a part of, there's never been a running back that's had over 50% of the touches. And so I expect Miles Sanders to have to share the ball with guys like Boston Scott. And I think that could just limit, his value. And so, like I said, I just have question marks about the entire offense, question marks about the coaching staff. On defense, I think the biggest concern is the secondary. Obviously, Darius Slay is there, and I love Darius Slay, but last year he just showed signs of age, especially when he had to guard guys like DK Metcalf, who's an athletic freak. It wasn't a pretty sight.
Was that when Jim Schwartz told DK? He said something to DK, and then DK went off that game.
Yes. Jim Schwartz said something. I don't know what he said.
I forgot what he said.
He said something.
He says like you're not. It wasn't even that bad though. But he says like you're not Megatron.
I think he said like you're not Calvin Johnson yet, or something like that, or like you're not Calvin. Yeah, you're not Megatron. Something along those lines.
Before the game, tell it to him after the game, man. Don't give the man more juice to. Do you see the man? Do you see how jacked he is? Like you want to give him more firepower against your terrible defense? Sorry, I just had to jump in with that. That was a funny thing from last year.
And then he torched their secondary. So also I imagine they have a new defensive coordinator. I don't know who, but I mean, they have a whole new coaching staff, and in their secondary, right? They have Darius Slay. They got Anthony Harris, who I think is another one of those guys that sort of got overpaid by the market because of. Well, actually, no, he had a really cheap contract, actually, if I'm remembering correctly. But even then, the Vikings are one of those teams that sort of like pump out the free safety spot with just different guys every time, because Harrison Smith is really solid on the other side, and Mike Zimmer is pretty good at like scheming up his safeties. So you just wonder how good they can be outside of a Mike Zimmer scheme. But on the other cornerback,
Gannon is their defensive coordinator.
Okay, and I don't even know who that is. So just unproven coaching staff. But the other cornerback spots, it's Steven Nelson, who got cut by the Steelers. He was actually graded really well last year, and he's on one of the best defenses, but also just had, a monster front seven, so he probably didn't have to cover as long as he will with the Eagles, who, mind you, still have a good defensive line, but similar issues to the offensive line of injury history, of just getting up there in age with Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, and, how effective can they continue to be into their, sort of fading years. See, I just have a lot of question marks about this team just across the board for the most part. And I expect them to be last in their division. Their win total right now, according to Vegas odds, is at like 6. I'm probably going to take the under on that. I mean, first off, we have to play the AFC West, and that's the Chiefs, that's the Chargers, that's the Raiders, that's the Broncos. I think all 4 teams are capable of beating the Eagles. I think all 4 teams right now are better than the Eagles. And then, you got to play defenses like Washington and the Giants. And I'm not sure that Jalen Hurts and that offense can compete with those. And then if healthy, you got to deal with the Cowboys offense. And I'm not sure their defense is good enough to stop that offense. And so it's just, I think it's going to be a rough season for the Eagles. But hey, you won a Super Bowl a few years ago. So, still recent enough to where you can talk about it.
So, yeah, Yeah, I'll start with the defense because I'll just start with this. I think we all, anyone that isn't outside that is outside of Philadelphia, as we've learned in some of our comments, expecting this team to not be very well. Good, and that's fine. I mean, they're kind of in a reload, and Nick Sirianni didn't look that great in his first press conference. But I mean, hey, they're there to coach, not to talk to the reporters. So maybe there's hope with that. But yeah, in regards to the defense, I mean, didn't really address linebacker, which is a huge hole they had last year. Like John, and then also like John mentioned, lost a lot in the secondary and didn't add to it really. So I mean, as good as our front four is, I mean, I love Fletcher Cox, but he's getting up. He's kind of showed signs of slowing down, and don't have much depth now. I mean, they have like Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham's getting up there in age too, and I think they have Javon Hargrave, but he's solid. But other than that, like not many guys after that. I don't think they have Josh Sweat anymore. But so yeah, issues on defense there, and first time it looks like it's his first time being an actual defensive coordinator is Jonathan Gannon. He was a defensive backs and corners backs coach in Indianapolis prior. So I mean, maybe he'll show some stuff, but I'm just not very confident at least with the talent he has. And then in regards to the offense, like John mentioned, I'm with John. Jalen Hurts is a great athlete, and I think if he could become a pro level thrower, but he's not there yet. And on top of the fact that not very reliable targets outside of really Dallas Goddard, who I think showed last year that he is the main tight end now. Zach Ertz I think is starting to get there because also Dallas Goddard is a better blocker. We already talked about Jalen Reagor, how he's kind of been disappointing as we all kind of expected when he got drafted. No clue. I mean, Devonta Smith, I expect to be back, but he missed, 2-3 weeks of training camp and preseason, so he might be behind. And regardless, I'm not sure this is going to be a creative enough scheme to create opportunities for him. And then it does suck because I did draft Miles Sanders in my fantasy league, and I think that he can be a really good back. But if they do running back by committee, that it might limit it because Boston Scott is good, but I think he's more of a third down, change of pace back than, but we'll see. We'll see how they use both of those guys. But I'm with you, John. I don't expect them to do much this season. So you got to hope that Jalen Hurts progresses and that their young talent just progresses because, Philly's in an odd spot where because they went all in for so long for the Super Bowl, they're kind of still shuffling some veterans out, bringing some new guys in. So I don't expect them to hit that win total either, but I'm not a betting man. So I'll keep it that short and simple for the Eagles because go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want to know what you think about the Gardner Minshew trade because I find it incredibly interesting because I don't think they're a team like, for example, the Cowboys were linked to trading for Gardner Minshew. And for them, it'd make a little more sense because it's clear Dak's your guy. If he gets hurt because he got hurt last year, you have a capable backup who's proven that he can be, a starting quarterback in the NFL, in Jacksonville. And he had terrible stuff around him. So you'd have to wonder what can he do with actual weapons. But the Eagles are not in that situation. No one's expecting them to win right now. They don't have an old veteran quarterback who has ever struggled with any sort of injuries. So I'm just what that signals, just taking all the context, is that they don't necessarily have as much faith in Jalen Hurts as I think some people believe they do. And part of me, I would not be shocked if Gardner Minshew becomes a starting quarterback at some point in the season. Because I don't understand why you make that trade otherwise.
Yeah, I'm with you. It makes no sense to me unless they don't have full confidence. Because it's in theory you want Jalen, like we talk about some of the other young players, you want Jalen Hurts to go out there and make mistakes. You should be okay with that, with the fact that he's not going to dominate right away.
And if he gets hurt, like you have Joe Flacco who can just play, and then you lose a lot of games, but at least you get a high draft pick. So I just don't get it,
And then I'm surprised he could have gone and I think I know why, because you don't want to bring in Cam Newton because he's Cam Newton, so it may automatically create more pressure behind Jalen Hurts, or because as soon as he messes up or things aren't going well, fans are going to want Cam Newton, even players on the team, because like, hey, we have a guy who wins the Super Bowl, let's play him. So I understand that, but yeah, I just feel like there's better, less obviously. I don't want to say threatening, but that's what the word I'm going to go with is threatening options. And yeah, I don't know really what the Eagles are doing. Like, it seems like every time, like, okay, I see the direction they're going, they do something weird like this. But I mean, really all NFL teams do. So I don't know. Maybe they just want a quality backup because maybe in theory too, every NFL team we're gunning for the Super Bowl. So maybe they really feel like they can win the Super Bowl up there. But at least it wasn't that high of a draft pick. But yeah, wouldn't shock me if like towards the end of the season they do that. It's maybe also to preserve Jalen Hurts, see what they have, to see if they can get anything out of Gardner Minshew. Maybe. But I'm with you. It doesn't make much sense otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it was so weird. I feel like that has to maybe even put doubt in Jalen Hurts' mind. Like I don't see the positive in why they made that move, because even if I don't think Gardner Minshew is gonna like come out and become like this. All of a sudden he's gonna have a massive crazy year where he becomes a franchise quarterback. Like, I think he's solid and we kind of know what he is, and maybe in the right system he could become a top 20 quarterback or something like that. But I don't know. It was a weird move. I don't understand it in the slightest.
Alrighty. Well, I think we're gonna wrap. That's what we'll call a wrap there. So that is the NFC East, provided to you by us. Let me make sure there's no random comments. No, we're good. So that was the NFC East. We'll be back. Probably record Labor Day or Tuesday. Probably we'll see. But we'll do our season predictions. Where we're gonna predict playoff teams. How the playoffs will turn out, and season awards winners. MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Et cetera, et cetera. So we'll be back for that early next week, and then right before, hopefully we'll probably do it. Hopefully Wednesday or Thursday, or maybe sooner. We'll record it sooner. But regardless, we'll do our get back to our weekly spread picks, so I can defend my title against John. So we'll do that next week. Otherwise, hope everyone, hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe wherever you're watching or listening, please. Like we mentioned before, John's been killing on Instagram. It's just at Shut Up and Ball Pod. And then our Twitter and our TikTok are just at Shut Up and Ball. And then our Facebook page is just Shut Up and Ball. So, and obviously if you're watching on YouTube, just, like, comment, subscribe. It's all free. So thank you everyone for your support. And, we're all getting excited for football. Got a lot of fantasy drafts this weekend. So if you're like me and John, or John and I, good luck in those fantasy drafts. And, hopefully you get the guys you want. And hopefully it works out. But it probably won't, because it's fantasy and it's weird. So, all right, everyone, have a nice night.